This week I will sign an executive order for your consideration to reorganize long-term care services within state government by creating a division of long-term services and supports within the Department of Human Services. The purpose of the reorganization is to create a more integrated approach to the delivery of long-term care in South Dakota and to ensure that people get the services they need in their communities. Our state will experience demographic changes in the coming years, which will require more long-term services and supports. In 2035, it's estimated the number of elders will increase in South Dakota by 84% compared to 2010. Hopefully I will still be around and among them. The number of elders with disabilities is expected to be 71% higher. Today, the Department of Human Services assists those with developmental disabilities who require long-term care, and the Department of Social Services provides that same assistance to those who are aging. We have two different departments providing a very similar service. Combining these services in one department will ensure that people can access long-term care regardless of why they need it. The reorganized agency will also redouble efforts to develop community-based services in our state to provide care in homes or other environments less restrictive and less expensive than nursing home placements. Last month in the budget address, I spoke about Initiated Measure 22. Since then, that law has been enjoined due to constitutional problems. Given that, I will support efforts this session to repeal Initiated Measure 22 and replace it with provisions that are well-crafted, constitutional, and responsive to the voters. The voters expect our campaign finance system to be transparent and honest, and they expect lobbyists to use only their arguments to win our votes. The proliferation of complex measures crowding our ballots through the efforts of people who don't live in South Dakota is a concern to many. We need to find a way to stop out-of-state organizations from experimenting with South Dakota's Constitution and laws. These groups have no ties to our states and often don't even disclose the source of their funds. They are using our state's low signature requirement and cheap media markets to attempt to pass constitutional amendments and initiate measures that advance their national agendas but don't address problems seen in South Dakota. It's ironic, South Dakota was the first state in the nation to create the initiative and referendum. In 1898, voters adopted these features of our Constitution because of a fear that big money, out-of-state special interests would take over the state legislature. Now, 120 years later, we find big out-of-state money is taking over our ballot. They use the initiative process, the very process we created to protect ourselves from them. This session, we need to work together to find a way to protect our state from interference by out-of-state groups while preserving our citizens' access to direct democracy. So issues that do concern our grassroots can be raised, but not by people who don't even live here. Speaking of another kind of grassroots, I'm introducing a bill this year to provide property tax incentives for riparian buffer strips on agricultural property. These buffer strips are areas near streams or lakes that have perennial plantings to protect the water from adjoining land uses. They improve water quality by filtering sediment and surface contaminants from runoff. Last year, you overwhelmingly passed a similar bill that I vetoed because of constitutional concerns. And I believe the new bill overcomes these concerns. And the legislation I am proposing has received positive support from ag groups, local governments, conservationists, sportsmen, and the Ag Land Assessment Task Force. I hope you will support it as well. Another important way that our state preserves our outdoors is through our excellent state park system. In 2016, more people camped in South Dakota state parks than ever before. Our parks hosted over 329,000 nights of camping, up 4% from 2015, when the 75th Sturgis Rally and the 50th Buffalo Roundup were held. Camping numbers have been increasing for our state parks every year for more than a decade. Progress continues at Good Earth State Park, which you approved in 2013 as South Dakota's 13th state park. Construction of the new visitor center is progressing, and the surrounding sidewalks are nearing completion. The new roadways into the park and parking area are complete. The Visitor Center film and interpretive displays, which will tell the story of the site's native inhabitants, are also underway. Outside, native grasses have been sown, trees planted, and hiking trails developed. A grand opening of the Visitor Center is scheduled for May. We also continue to pursue efforts to create a state park in Spearfish Canyon. I spoke to you about this last year. Our congressional delegation has introduced legislation that authorizes the exchange of 1,992 acres of Black Hills National Forest for 1,954 acres of state land currently held by school and public lands and 34 acres within Spearfish Canyon. The exchange is a good deal for South Dakota. It gives the state control of a beautiful area while allowing the federal government to round out some of its